Guys, welcome to Gaming with Jordan. I am, of course, Jordan. Today we will be discussing Elder Scrolls 6 and 3 things that I would like to see Bethesda do with this game. I'm very excited to share with you my hopes for the future of this franchise, and if you stick around to the end of this video, you will hopefully be convinced that if Elder Scrolls 6 follows just these 3 things, it is sure to be an incredible game. And if you're not, that's okay too. These are my personal opinions, and I'm not speaking for all gamers. The majority of the things I'm going to be talking about in this video are the ways that Bethesda could improve upon their game. So if it comes off sounding like I'm bashing Skyrim and the other entries, I am absolutely not. I love these games and I can make a full video on the things that I enjoy about them. Okay guys, the first thing that I would like to see Bethesda implement in Elder Scrolls 6 would be a meaningful story. The Elder Scrolls games have always been exceptional about transporting its players into a different world and immersing them in countless things to do and places to see. If you would have asked me 5 years ago, I would have told you that Elder Scrolls have some of the best storylines video games can offer. This may have been because I was somewhat blinded by my extreme love for these games, or perhaps it was because I tended to shy away from linear storytelling experiences in favor of a more open and free style of gameplay. Nevertheless, my viewpoint has shifted over the years. After playing games like The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt and Red Dead Redemption 2, I can't help but feel like a level of depth is missing when playing Skyrim or Oblivion. This is not to say that I didn't like the stories, because I actually did, but I like the stories because they made me feel more important, like a hero in a Greek Odyssey. And like Greek Odysseys of old, Elder Scrolls focuses on lore and action to progress the narrative. This provides for an extremely enjoying and satisfying gameplay experience, but I think that Elder Scrolls 6 could provide something even more than that. In the 6th entry, I would like to care about the people I meet along my journey, whether those people be companions or perhaps a mourning widow I meet in a side quest. I can truthfully say that the only characters I was half concerned about while playing Skyrim were my companion dog and Lydia. But seriously, I lost my companion dog in a dungeon one time and I almost cried. And I didn't even cry at my wedding, so that should tell you something. I want to be invested in this story. If there is a planetary-wide threat that only my hero protagonist can defeat, I want to be emotionally invested in the people of the game that I'm trying to save. Otherwise, it just seems meaningless. Caring about the events and people in the game is certainly important. But what about fearing and even hating the opposition? How much more satisfying is it to defeat an enemy that you despise? I am reminded of one of my favorite television shows of all time and a potentially excellent template for Bethesda when making their next Elder Scrolls game. This show is, of course, Game of Thrones. The success of this show is marked just as much by the hatred you feel for the show's antagonist as the love you feel for its heroes. Imagine playing a game where you have the opportunity to defeat a mad tyrant like King Joffrey. Would that be satisfying? Hell yeah, it would be, because everyone hated King Joffrey. An example of an excellent in-game villain would be Voss from Far Cry 3. In the first 5 minutes of the game, you and your older brother are trapped by the evil and extremely erratic drug lord Voss. Voss brutally murders your brother before your very eyes as you both try to escape. Well yeah, and I forgot to tell you, Voss also has your brother's girlfriend, your best friend, your younger brother, and your girlfriend held captive as well. Talk about giving you some incentive for wanting to take this guy down. If Elder Scrolls 6 can even glean a little from these more story-centric properties, we will certainly be in for one of the best games of all time. The number 2 thing that I would like to see in the upcoming Elder Scrolls game is an increased amount of RPG elements. Yes, Skyrim is an RPG. You are playing a role, the Dragonborn, and for the most part, that role can be whatever it is that you decide you want it to be. There are class systems, fluid class systems, but class systems all the same, and you can make choices in that game that affect the world around you. Do you want to be a master craftsman? You can do that. Maybe you want to study in the arcane arts, craft potions, or simply be a traveling tradesman. You can do that too. But as many of you that played Bethesda's early entries can attest to, Skyrim was a considerable downgrade when it came to the choices that you could make within the game. Their reasoning for this was to lower the level of entry and make Skyrim more accessible to players who were less than familiar with RPG games. This simplification, if you will, is best represented by the changes to the magic system in the game. In prior games, you had the ability to craft a vast number of spells by combining different spells together. You could combine a weakness to fire spell with a fire spell to create a deadly attack, or you could combine a drain strength spell and a burden spell, essentially stopping enemies in their tracks. You could levitate, water breathe, and pretty much anything else that you could think of. In Morrowind, you could find the boots of blinding speed, which would allow you to go incredibly fast, but as a caveat, would render you blind. You could combat this by enchanting a ring to resist magic, thus nullifying the effects to a limited degree. Walking anywhere in Morrowind was pretty awful because of how slow your character moved, which made this in-game hack super helpful. But to make matters even better, you could combine this skill with levitation and fly across the map in minutes like Superman. What I'm trying to get at here is having more choices in a game like Elder Scrolls is always a good thing. There are a ton of quality of life enhancements that Skyrim made over the prior games, and I am grateful for many of the elements that they streamlined. I never want to have to jump for an hour straight just to get my agility boosted ever again. That's not fun. That's just grinding. We live in a time where games are at their most complex, and yet they are also at their most intuitive at the same time. Having ample amounts of player choice is not going to turn anyone away from the game. On the contrary, it will keep them playing for longer. Now, we can't talk about player choice without also talking about player consequence, or should I say a natural reaction to those choices being evident in the game. When I defeat the final boss in Skyrim, I would like to be able to go back to Whiterun and be celebrated as a hero, but instead I don't really feel like anything actually happened. When I stroll through the town square with famous Nightingale armor, I want the townspeople to recognize this and take note, or on the other hand, scoff when I run around without clothing. I want the choices I make in conversation to come back to bless me or haunt me later down the road. For those of you that played The Witcher 3, the Bloody Baron quest is an excellent example of this. The final outcome of the quest relied solely on a decision that you didn't realize the weight of at the time, and when you did realize, it was too late. In a role-playing game, moments like this are what set it apart from the rest. Last but not least, the third and final thing that I would like to see in the upcoming Elder Scrolls 6 game is Visceral Combat. There are very few things more fun than being a sneaky archer and silently assassinating all of the bandits hiding away in some ancient tomb. But combat in Elder Scrolls games have generally been less about player skill and more about in-game stats. Timing really isn't of the essence, and when you're swinging a heavy claymore, the sword doesn't feel like it has the weight that you think it should. I can imagine Elder Scrolls 6 with a first-person Witcher 3 type gameplay style. Okay, imagine this. A bandit takes a long swing at you. However, you narrowly parry his attack. The clanging of blades and dodging of attacks continues when you notice that an archer is perched off to the left, standing on a swinging wood bridge. He fires a single arrow in your direction. You avoid the attack by swinging your blade and cutting the incoming arrow in two. You are quickly able to create distance between you and the swordsman, allowing you time to retrieve the bow in your back and send an arrow back into the archer's skull. Unfortunately, the swordsman has gained ground on you and raises his sword high in the air. You block his sword with your bow, but now your bow is badly damaged and rendered unusable. You quickly spin behind your target and swing your blade horizontally, decapitating the bandit where he stands. This is definitely more exciting than just mindlessly slashing at an enemy. You would be reacting in time and anticipating your enemy's movements. This doesn't mean that I want Elder Scrolls 6 turned into Dark Souls or Kingdom Come Deliverance. But what I do want is to feel as close to being in an actual combat situation as possible. I would like to see varied combat movements and combos. I want to feel like a total badass even when all I did was hit a few buttons at the right time. I'm hopeful the control vibration and game animation gives me a sense of real physical tension when firing bows, swinging swords, and blocking attacks. I would like to see the same with magic. I want to feel like Emperor Palpatine when I unleash lightning on my foes. I would like to see variations in gameplay styles. Perhaps when I summon an army of skeletons to fight for me, I can switch to the perspectives of each of the skeletons, similar to how you can change companions in Mass Effect or Knights of the Old Republic. Anything that would make combat more exciting and less repetitive. Thank you guys so much for watching. I truly hope that this video brought you enjoyment. I would greatly appreciate it if you would like this video and subscribe to see more. I'm new to YouTube, but I'm going to continue to hone my craft and release quality content as often as I can. That's it for this time. See you guys later.